Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod. That is my guy, Sean White. Give him a follow at Dumpster Fire Fan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Give the show a follow, please, at Money Down Pod. We appreciate all of you and everything that you guys have done for this show. We really means a lot to us. So keep those likes, those views, the reviews, the questions, keep them coming in. And as always, we will always answer those questions and give you a shout out live on the next show. So thank you for that. Hope everyone's doing well. Sean, how are things going with you? We just had a really good Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher talk that we just had some fun with, and that was good. How's everything going on in your world?
Yeah, going well. Been watching a lot of hockey playoffs, which I usually am not into the hockey like my guy Kayvon is, but my wife's into it too. So that's been
Love
fun to
it.
watch the hockey playoffs going. That big debate we had with Jimbo and Saban, that was a great time right there.
Yeah.
And we're really getting in the swing of things in the summertime. Going to start previewing next year and everything. But one big thing happened last week. We had my Sacramento Kings jumping up in the 4 spot in the NBA lottery. I know we're going to talk about that. I'm real excited to bring that to you because we did a lot of NFL draft coverage, right? Everyone knows we did the NFL coverage. And like I've said on that, we just pay a lot of attention. We do watch film and stuff like that, but neither one of us worked for a specific team or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, Kayvon does a lot of work on these NBA prospects because he actually used to be a scout in the NBA. He was an NBA scout in the league. So this is going to be some good information for him.
I was, yeah. A couple years there. It was a blast. Had a lot of fun with it. And literally the stuff that I am going to bring you guys throughout this process is exactly how we would break it down in the rooms when we would go over these prospects. So you're going to get the real live talk. I've gone with over. Sean knows exactly how to bounce back with me because I've had these talks with him. He scouts these players just like I do. But we're just going to for this show, you're going to get a real in-depth look of how some of these scouts do it when they break it down before drafting. Now, with that being said, this year, Sean, is fascinating when it comes to the NBA draft. And the reason that is you could have 3 to 4 guys that could be absolute rock stars in this league. I mean, rock stars. Guys that we're talking about all pro first team. And then you can have some massive bust. And I'm talking about some of the biggest bust, Anthony Bennett type bust, but bigger because higher expectations coming into it. Remember that Anthony Bennett draft? He wasn't expected to go number 1 overall. He just ended up going because the Cavs were awful at drafting and they took him number 1. It was terrible. The guys that might go number 1 overall this year, they're going to be expected to be phenomenal. And there's a very good chance that they aren't. And I have a lot of questions with it, starting off the bat with Chet Holmgren. He is not my number 1 overall guy. I have so many issues with him. Now, again, I want to be clear. He could be great. And I think you're on the same page with me on this. He could be very good. He has that length. He can shoot it like a KD. He can step out. He can go inside. The problem is his weight and his strength is a big issue. And that wasn't an issue for KD, but KD was a better shooter. As I said, he can shoot like KD as in terms of his length and being able to shoot outside as a big man, but he's nowhere near as polished of a shooter as KD was coming into the NBA. And KD knows how to get to his spots. He also knows how to put on a little bit weight. He can bang it down low a little bit. I don't think that Chet can do that at this point. Maybe he can get into an NBA training room and that can happen. I have to see, but there's so many questions with him. I can't have him as my number 1 overall prospect. My number 1 overall prospect is Jabari Smith. I love Jabari Smith out of Auburn. Have my notes right here about him. I think he is a really versatile player that if you want to compare anyone in this draft to KD, I think it's Jabari Smith, not Chet Holmgren. I think Jabari is that true typical NBA player today that can do it all. He can shoot. He's big. He's rangy. He can get to his spots in the mid-range, and he can post it up down low. And he's low-key really good at passing the ball as well. Not many people talk about Jabari when we talk about his shooting and what he can do. Now he's got to work on his consistency. He's got to work on his motor. It turned on and off in Auburn a couple times, but when he is rolling, He is my number one guy in this draft. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on Chet as well?
I agree with you that Jabari is the number one prospect because I do see the KD similarities there a lot more than with Chet as well. The thing with Jabari that I like, and the thing that makes the Chet to KD comparison not as reliable for me is KD, since the moment he stepped maybe onto a basketball floor, just the way he's been, but definitely since he went to that year of Texas and then into the NBA, he's always been able to, number one, pull up off transition, and number two, one dribble pull up on the mid range. That's been his move since he came into the league. He's always been able to hit it, and it's almost unblockable, and he just gets the shot off no matter what. Jabari has a little of that. Jabari can get that one dribble pull up. Jabari can shoot that set shot, and Jabari can pull it off transition. I don't think Chet has quite the handles to really go from dribble, pound dribble to just pull it right there immediately.
Agreed.
Where Chet reminds me more of a Porzingis type. Like, I know that gets thrown around a good amount with the length and the height, but that's who he reminds me of. And I think that's a general worry, in my opinion, because you don't want Porzingis at this point if that's what you're doing, unless you just think injuries completely derailed him. But I kind of see Chet as that kind of personality and that type of player where he's going to be a mismatch nightmare in some degrees. But banging down low, being able to handle the ball outside, real concern for me with Chet. And that's why he's my number two player, really right there with the number 2 or 3. I really could take him or Banchero, really. And I know you're going to have thoughts on Banchero. But on Jabari, Jabari's the number one prospect to me. He's the safest guy, plays good defense inside. I know Chet's good at blocking shots, but I feel like Jabari can slide his feet a little bit better, maybe guard a 4 and a 3 a little bit better, kind of like a KD did in Golden State when he really wants to be engaged. And honestly, I think the Magic are going to take him. Let's be honest, the Magic takes what Isaac, Mo Bamba, all them. They take long, rangy guys like that. They're going to take someone versatile. And let me get your opinion on this. I think Chet kind of has to go to OKC. I think he has to go somewhere where the GM's not going to get fired on the pick. Because if Preston is on OKC, I could see him falling, man. Like, you don't want to risk your career on that. Maybe the Rockets get pressured into it. It's like, look, you have your opportunity. We're not going to fire you if he misses there. Yeah. I think that's a real worrisome thing, man. I think some of these GMs might be a little scared. I think Orlando's GM would definitely be a little tempted to pass on Chet there, just because if he busts, you're getting fired no matter what. Whereas Jabari, I feel like, is a lot more safe of a prospect. I feel like Chet's definitely just a Presti type of guy, man.
That's a really good point. I like that. Also, I like that point about the stability, and I also just like that he's going to get, if he goes to OKC, Presti will know how to build around him. He's going to bring in the power, which is why I actually really would love to see Jabari go to OKC, because I think Jabari with Shea and Josh Giddey would be right away a really fun trio, because I think Giddey is, for people that didn't watch Giddey last year, he can create shots for other people like no other. This dude can pass the ball. Jabari will have a ton of wide open threes with Giddey and Shea out there. And you could say the same thing for Chet too, because Chet can shoot the ball as well. I just like Jabari more. So I think you're right. I think if I was either of these guys, I would be wishing to fall to number 2 and go to OKC, because I think the potential there for both of them is better. While not, the Magic, it's tough, man. They keep throwing out these guys, and I do like some of the guys they have. I really do. Younger guys, but it's not like the young talent that OKC has and the GM that OKC has. So that's a really good point. I want to throw this out to you about Chet real quick before I move on. I think, and people are going to hate on this, but I respect this guy. I think that the ceiling for Chet is a modern day Pau Gasol.
Yeah, people are going to hate on that.
People are going to hate on that and think that that's beat, man. Like, people are going to say that's kind of messed up. But look, Pau's a good player, man. Pau could shoot that mid-range. He can't shoot the 3. That's why I said a modern day. And he was a great defender. I mean, some people, I saw some people say a modern day Rudy Gobert. Like, I saw people say that too, except I think that Rudy Gobert's so anemic offensively that it's kind of hard for me to compare. Because I think Chet's a good offensive player. I really do. Just worry about his build and how he can go inside. I think Rudy's much more stronger inside. But Powell was a great, strong defender inside. So that's why I'm saying if he can get to that strength defensively, man, I again, it's one I haven't seen people throwing out there. So that's why I want to say it. People are going to take that as a shot. But Powell's a good player, man. Like he was.
I love that comparison. And yeah, just he has a 3 instead of the banging post game. Like
Exactly.
it's literally a perfect comparison, especially if he puts on weight. I love that. I haven't seen that comp out there. I love that comp a lot. I think it's a lot better than the ones that people have been throwing around, like Katie and Dirk. Like let's calm down on that. I do like the Pau Gasol comparison though, and honestly, I would not mind Pau Gasol at all. Like people hate on Pau, even though he was a really great player. He was a number 2 behind Kobe on those Laker championship teams.
Yep, both those.
Let's be honest, Kobe wouldn't have won those without Pau. No. Let's be honest. So that's a really good comparison. I actually like that a lot. That's a great comparison out there on the throw.
Awesome. I thought you'd like that. All right, so let me go to my number 2 guy now, which, again, it's going to get some flack here because people are going to say, how is this guy number 2? My number 2 is Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. I'm obsessed with Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey, to me, is Donovan Mitchell with a higher ceiling. Like, people right away are going to go, whoa. I think Jaden Ivey is a better defender than Donovan Mitchell, which is why I say higher ceiling. Offensively, I think they can be the exact same player, maybe a better shooter from deep than Donovan. Donovan's a little inconsistent, but Jaden Ivey, 6'4", 195, he did everything for Purdue. He's a better defender. He is an all-star guard to me, all-star guard that can walk in immediately and start playing. Now, I want to be clear. He's not going to go number 2 overall because there's no reason for OKC to take him because they have Shea, they have Giddey. They already have these guys that can really play that guard position. But I'm just talking about prospect-wise. I love Jaden Ivey. I know that you watched a little bit of him in the tournament, and after I texted you and told you the other day, I know you're going to go get around to watching him more. From what you've seen, what do you think of Ivey?
Yeah, explosive guard, really explosive. He definitely has the high upside type guard potential that you like to see. So I like Jaden Ivey a lot. I think he's right there in the 3-4 range. I really do like him a lot. He's more of a safer prospect to me because you know what you're going to get with him. You know, no matter what, you're going to get tough defense, and he's going to be able to get out and run and score in transition. Going to have to improve a little bit on his passing and stuff, but he's a scoring guard, so he's going to go out there and score. I think what's interesting is, and I want to throw this out there because Kayvon's really good at picking some of these prospects that GMs pass on. So Kayvon was big on Maxey coming out, and Kayvon was also very big on Halliburton. He talked them up a lot in the drafts to me, constantly talked about those two, and they came in and really performed. Here's the thing about Jaden Ivey. He's going to drop a little bit, man, because I think that number 1, Orlando's not taking him. Number 2, OKC can't take him because they have 2 guards. When you get to the Rockets, it's like, do you really? You already got Jalen Green. That's a very similar player. And the Kings at 4, once you trade Halliburton away, you can't with Mitchell and Fox go ahead and take another guard like that. So then you really look at that 5-6 range, and even the Pacers at 6. Hey, you got Halliburton and all that. You're really looking at some murky waters. So this is a guy that could fall and end up being one of the better players in the draft. And Kayvon's really good at picking that type of player out. Like how we discussed in the NFL, I have a really uncanny knack for picking receivers. Kayvon has a very uncanny knack for picking players, especially guards that fall in the draft and end up being way better than the position they're drafted at. I could see that happening right here with your number 2 player.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that and pointing that out because I think that's big. Because I think what's going to happen, Sean, is exactly what you said. He's going to fall, man, and people are going to come back and say, "What do you had him as your number 2, and he fell all the way down to 7, 8? How is that possible?" You just wait 2 years in the league. Then it's just like Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell fell down to 8, and now everyone go back and look at that draft. Should have gone really high. Like, that's what I believe is going to end up happening. I fully believe the top 3 picks are probably going to be Chet, Jabari, and Paolo in that type of order. I really believe that. But my top guys is Jabari 1, Jaden Ivey 2, and then, again, I'm not putting Paolo at number 3. People, again, are going to freak out at this. Shaedon Sharpe is my number 3 player. He, to me, is Paul George. He is Paul George. I love what I'm seeing in Shaedon Sharpe. Now, I'm not going to get too into him because he didn't play in college this last year. So you guys got to go watch his high school, and that's tough and all that stuff. But I'm just telling you right now, his length is fantastic. He's 6'4", 198. He is to me the best you can get in terms of two-way player in this draft. Like guard, offensive player. He's a guy that can do it on both ends of the floor. And I really think in his first year, he's very unselfish. He can show out in his first year and be a Paul George or a taller Bradley Beal, a Jalen Green that we just saw. That is what I see his potential. And that's why I have him higher, which will bring me to Paolo, because I know we both want to talk about Paolo here. Paolo to me is Julius Randle. That's
wow. Wow.
I know, man. People are going to hate. Paolo to me is Julius Randle. I'm sorry. That's just, I think I could be wrong on this, and he could be phenomenal. He really could be. I see Chris Webber in him too. If you want to go back in the older days, and Chris Webber was a better player, like it's Paolo to me, man. There's just some inconsistency there. I would take him in my top 5 because he has the ceiling to be really, really good. There's just a couple things about him that worry me, man. He's inconsistent. His shot is inconsistent, but because he's 6'10", 250, everybody's going to want a chance at him. He can work off the ball. I get all that stuff. He's a pretty good defender. To me, man, I just didn't like some of the things that I saw in Duke. I thought he was too inconsistent, and I thought he kind of has a bit of an attitude, man, just like Julius Randle. And I put them there. Again, people are going to hate on this, but that's what I see Paolo as.
Okay, so first on Shaedon Sharpe. I want Shaedon Sharpe to go to the Kings, to be honest.
It would be the best. It would be awesome for you.
As a Kings fan, I would love a Fox, Shaedon Sharpe, Sabonis 3. Like, that would be a fun core to build around and watch. Fun. And I think that would be a good thing. Now, whether he would want to go to the Kings, I can't fault any of them for
I think he'd be fine with it, but you're right. Who knows?
And this isn't like the NFL where like they'll just go anywhere really, because I wouldn't have been able to fault Trevor for not going to the Jags that year either. Like, I cheer for dumpster fire teams. That's why the Twitter handle's there. But I can never fault anyone for being like, oh, the Kings. But I really do want Shaedon Sharpe there. I think that'd be a good fit. Honestly, I'm not going to watch as much of him. I'm not going to go back and watch high school tape, really. Yeah. I'm not skilled enough as a scout to break that down. Maybe in football I can do a little bit of breakdown because I watch it.
You definitely could, yeah.
But it's a little more difficult for me because I feel like a lot of high school and AAU games are kind of the same. They just kind of run up and down. It's really just seeing who's the best athlete out of it.
Yeah.
If you want to go athletically, yeah, Shaedon Sharpe, there you go. So he's going to need some coaching, but I like that. I like the fit at 4 with the Kings. I really hope they take him. As for Paolo, it's so funny because I'm the resident Duke hater since I'm a fan. I was actually a Zion hater, and everybody's going to be like, well, look at how good Zion is. I wasn't saying Zion was going to be bad. I was saying Zion was going to be Blake Griffin, and I feel like that's actually the case, if we're being honest. And I was just going to take Ja over him. So that was one.
Look how that's come out. Look how that's worked so far.
I'll take credit on that take.
Yeah.
But as the resident Duke hater, I actually like Paolo. Okay, like he's my number 3, right there, right there behind Chet. Really, mine's kind of chalk on that. Yeah. You don't see Carmelo at all in him. You think
Carmelo's a good. That I'm not gonna lie. I actually have not heard someone say Carmelo yet. That's actually a good one. I see that. The problem with it again is Carmelo was so good in college consistently. I just wanted to see that more in Paolo, man. Like he just hid at times in Duke. But you're right. Carmelo's interesting. I do see that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so the mid-range, like elbow, like footwork moves, I feel like is there. Whereas Melo, let's be honest, Melo was a great prospect, man. People sleep on Melo on how good he was, especially early in his career. Melo had a lot more moves than Banchero does right now. But I kind of see the same type of ceiling with both of them.
That's
and
good.
They're going to have to work on that 3 game for sure because, like, Melo never had to worry about that back then. There was mid-range. So that's kind of where I see him. So I'm a little higher on Banchero than you, which is very surprising since I'm the Duke hater.
Yeah.
But, hey, I liked him as a prospect. I think the attitude thing can be a little worrisome, but I see more Melo in him than I do anything else. I feel like he's going to be a solid prospect. I think he's safer than Chet. If you're going the top 3 is chalk, he's definitely safer than Chet to me.
Yeah, so first of all, again, I like that comparison. I like when you give me stuff that I haven't heard. I haven't heard the Melo. I see it now. The more you say that, I see it. Just again, you said it. Dude, people sleep. Melo was a phenomenal prospect. I mean, what he did with that Syracuse team was still, we haven't really seen that in college basketball. Like, he finished that deal. He won that national title. That was incredible. So I do see what you're saying. The attitude worries me a little bit. He's inconsistent. But one thing that I will give Paolo that will make him a good player in this league, and this is where I should have said this in the beginning, he's a good defender. He is a positionless defender, and Julius Randle has some defensive issues. He lacks at times on the defensive floor. He will be a good defender in the NBA. He's got to get better offensively, but he has some skill set to do it. But you're right, he doesn't have the moves like Melo, but I do like that comp. I do. And the thing is, like, he's a safer pick to me than Chet, but Chet has the higher ceiling. Like, you know, a lot of you guys, you're going to see as we get into this with basketball, I'm kind of the same way with football. Like, Sean in football, and he's usually right about these guys too. He loves those guys that have that high ceiling. Like, he said that this was one of his best calls, the Justin Jefferson thing. He said that he was pounding his hand on the table. Justin Jefferson is going to be the best receiver. Should have gone way earlier because of his ceiling. And we all see what the hell Justin Jefferson can do now. I'm more of, I want the guy that I know is going to be good. That's why I have Jaden Ivey and Shaden Sharp. I know those guys are going to be 10-year guards in the league as long as they stay healthy. I really fully believe that. I think Paolo and Chet could be all NBA by year 2, phenomenal players, or they truly could be like bust, like complete bust. Now, I see bust way more in Chet than I do Paolo. I think Paolo will figure it out just like Julius Randle did. Like, I think he will figure it out. He'll get his money. He'll be good, all that stuff. Chet, man, he is question marks all over the place. All over the place. Like, he to me, I can't wrap my mind around him. Phenomenal, worrisome. That's it with Chet. But they're going to be the top 3 in some order. Jabari, Chet, Paolo, that's the top 3.
Yeah, and where Kayvon's talking about that, he kind of keeps it consistent. I actually switch it up. So I love high upside in the NFL, and it's because you have a position coach, a D coordinator, and a head coach like that. You have so many coaches that I feel like if you just take the high upside guy, find a way to fit him in, coach him up, teach him how to do that. It's strange, man. In basketball, sometimes these high upside guys way higher bust rate to me. Like, just because they're an athlete doesn't mean they're going to pan out in basketball. And one of the things is, man, coaching turnover, especially at the bottom, I see it with the Kings. You see it with the Magic. This coaching staff turnover that you get with these bottom teams that just constantly churns and churns, man, it's an issue for some of these players. They're just not able to filter out. I mean, look at how Wiggins went from the Timberwolves to now how he plays with the Warriors. That's just a completely different culture and staff. And whereas there's like 4 or 5 dysfunctional teams in the NFL, even then, if you have enough talent, there'll be some players that just have a really good position coach.
Yeah.
Like for one, Trayvon Walker went 1. He was an all upside pick.
Yep.
Outside linebacker coach at Jacksonville is as good as people say he is. He could be great even in a dysfunctional environment.
It's a great.
Whereas Chet in a place like Orlando, he might not have the coaching staff there the next 2-3 years. He could just flame out, and that's a big difference in the NBA. So I tend to lean toward the safer pick in the NBA as well. It's always good when you get like a Kyrie or like a prospect like that you just know is the number one guy. But when you don't have that, I kind of lean toward the safer prospect, which is Jabari again. So I thought that was a good back and forth on that between the two of us, how our philosophies differ between the sports.
Yeah, and again, I just want to stress on that because that's a phenomenal point. The NBA, man, it really is tough. Like, you go to these teams sometimes, and it's just you have to be such a home run prospect to overcome the challenges in that team. And it's a really good point to reckon with, which is why I say a lot of these guys, I know you want that plaque of number 1 overall, but really, if I was Chet, if I was Jabari, if I was Paolo, I'd be praying that I get to go to OKC at number 2. And look, again, it's not a slight on Orlando. It's just that the likelihood of Presti finding a way to make it work is way higher than, like Sean said, who knows who you're going to be coached by in 2 years, 3 years, GM 3 years, 4 years now. That's the tough stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. Again, bring the hate, bring the feedback. If you think I'm absolutely crazy, tell me, but tell me why. I want to hear your reasons why I should have Chet as number one. I want to hear your reasons why I should have Paolo in my top three. Tell me why, and then we'll go from there. We're going to do a lot more of these shows. We're going to talk about some guys that me and Sean both like towards the outside the top five, that we like that could be really home
late lottery, as they like to say.
Yeah, exactly. Late lottery picks, even past the lottery that could really just show up big time. And I'm telling you, I think this draft has some depth in it where we could be talking the 8th pick, the 10th pick, the 15th pick, end up showing up big time and being good players. So we'll break that down as the NBA draft gets closer and closer. That is all for now. That's my guy, Sean. We want to hit on real quick.
That's it for draft talk. Let's talk about the playoffs right quick.
Yeah, so let's move on to the playoffs here. Again, that is my guy, Sean White, at Dumpster Fire Fan. Myself at Kayvon Izami, Kayvon_sports. This is the Money Down Pod. Take a second, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts of the show. And give us a quick little review. We want to hear your thoughts. And again, we will air your thoughts with your name live on the next show. Sean, let's get into what is now the NBA playoffs. That I'm sitting here last night and I watched the first half and I immediately turned to hockey and I just said, please let Boston win this game. I'm not a Boston fan. I'm not a Miami fan. I just wanted Boston to win that game so that they could be up 3-2 going home and hopefully in this series. I can't watch this anymore, man. I can't. The best game we have had in this Eastern Western Conference is Game 2, Dallas Golden State, when it was really intense, back and forth. Dallas was up 19-2. If that says anything, Golden State comes roaring back. This has been terrible, man. This has been one of the worst products I have seen. It's not like the NBA, man. It's not like the NBA. Even in that phenomenal Boston-Milwaukee series, most of those games were blowouts. I mean, that was a great series, but most of those games were blowouts. Like, the first round was great. After that, the NBA has really been bad. And I think Adam Silver is sitting back saying, what is going on? I mean, they are beat up right now. Jimmy Butler looks like he can barely stand. Max Strus should not play another minute in this series. The guys cannot. Kyle Lowry, I hate saying this because I love Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry looks like a grandpa out there. He looks old. He looks weak. He looks slow. Sean, Kyle Lowry had the same stat line that me and you had. He had more fouls than he had points, rebounds, and assists last night. Like, it's been terrible, man. I have not enjoyed it, and it's made me and you. I've always been a big hockey fan, but I've always loved the NBA more, and it's made me more of an NHL playoff fan. It's made you way more of an NHL playoff fan. Like, that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's been bad, man. Like, there's no way around it. I know people are talking about it too because it's not just us, obviously, that notices this, but good Lord. I mean, did Miami make a shot in their first 14 attempts the other night?
I don't think so. They had 1 point.
Yeah, and that's no offense to Miami because they're a well-coached team. I like their team and everything. They're just injured, man, and that's so sad to see at the end of the year because you don't want to have a bunch of injuries in your playoffs, man. You can't have that. David Stern would not let that happen. Let's be honest. David Stern would not be letting this happen, and it's happened for several years in a row. David Stern would have done something about this. This is a little bit on Adam Silver to kind of hey. We need to talk to either these owners or figure out something because we have the issue with the players sitting out already. I would argue they need to sit out more at this point.
Right.
But you can't keep charging for games and then having all their stars sit out. So Adam Silver and the owners are going to have to come up with a solution here because we can't have a bunch of injuries in the playoffs like this. Maybe they need the extra days rest in between. Maybe they need to recover. Because I don't know, maybe they're going out there and they're still tired from the last game and they can't even hit in the first quarter. It's been rough. And for all the Luka fun we've had and all the magic with Memphis and everything like that, now that Golden State kind of sees that series, really this Boston-Miami series is the only one that's close, but it's close in a bad way.
In a bad way.
It's been close in a bad way. And really, I think we are going to get Boston and Golden State. Do you really give Boston a shot in that?
I
Honestly,
do.
you
I
give
do.
them a shot, but
I
like,
actually do. I'm praying. I really believe we could get a good finals.
so
That's been my hope and dream.
so here's my issue with the whole good final talk. If the Warriors are on, the Warriors blow you out. Like it's no in between. That's the thing about
Right.
it. If they're on, it's because two of their shooters are hot, and you're just not going to beat them. And here's the thing with Boston, they're kind of the same way, man. If Tatum and Brown are on, and then they go out and do all this scoring, it's going to be a rough watch. I think. I hope it's a good series because I love the NBA. But you're right, man. I'm over here having to change to hockey to watch like close, intense games. Whereas, man, some of the stuff with the injuries, I mean, they're not even playing Duncan Robinson because he's so bad, but Max Strus is just as bad out there. Like, it's a weird situation. It's hard to watch, and honestly, we just need to get to the finals already because the conference finals just not doing it, man.
It's really bad, and I really hope, and I see what you're saying with the finals because you're right. When one team's, I mean, shoot, even Golden State, when they're cold, they lose by 50 to Memphis. When they're hot, they beat Memphis by 50. Like, we could see a finals just like this where Boston wins by 30, Golden State wins by 20. Like we could literally see. I'm just really hoping that these two teams, they both finish the series now. Golden State wins tonight. Boston wins tomorrow. Each player, each team gets like 5 days off or something like that, 4 days off. And maybe that gets them going because the reason why I have hope that the finals could be good is I think Robert Williams is the key here. What Williams is doing to Bam Adebayo needs to look in the mirror and say, what the hell? He is destroying Adebayo. And I think he could be an issue for the Celtics down low because they don't really have I get it, Looney. I'm not trying to, I tweeted something out about Looney the other day and I had a couple people say, you don't disrespect Looney, whatever. Like, he's an okay player, all right?
He just scored his first 20-point game since he was a freshman at UCLA, dog.
Like that. Thank you very much. So like it's like just pump the brakes here. I think Williams could add a factor here. I think Smart versus Draymond and all that like technical foul. They both could technically foul each other out of the series. I think that type of stuff could be interesting. I'm just really I might just be naive and just praying because they've been so bad. I saw Mark Cuban say that he thinks that this is because of the play-in tournament and it's adding extra games. The problem with that is Boston didn't play in the play-in tournament. Like Miami didn't play in the play. Like I don't know what that really has to do with it.
I think he's saying they can't give the days rest in between because of the play-in.
Oh, yeah, what he's saying?
But I would argue that like the whole reason why the first round was viewed so high is because the play-in led into it and the intensity was there for everything. So I think the play-in needs to stay. If anything, you've got to cut the regular season. Is what I think. You agree with that? Is that your solution? Because here's the two solutions everybody's throwing around. You either cut the regular season or you do something about the 3-point shot. But I don't know if you believe that or not.
No, I think that's ridiculous. I heard Colin Cowherd, and I love Colin Cowherd. I heard a couple of people say that takeout. First of all, a lot of people make like PJ Tucker makes his living by hitting that corner three. I like the corner three, man. I don't think that does anything. I don't really understand that. I think you got to cut it. I think if they cut it to 72 games, I think that's like Adam Silver's over here talking about a midseason tournament. That's the worst thing they could do right now. More is not better. We already have an issue with guys sitting, and now we have an issue with terrible playoffs. Like, that's got to end. Even the game sevens we got, Sean, was Dallas won by 70. They won by like 50. Like even the game 7 was terrible. It's just they've got. I get the 3-point thing. I just don't think that makes sense to me. I think cutting it works. Do you agree with that? Cutting the season?
Yeah, it's cutting it for sure. The 3-point shot. It's weird. Everybody's attributing the blowouts to that, but like. I think they're attributing it to, well, one team's hot and just goes up so much by 3 and the other team goes cold. Well, Dallas, like you said, that game 2 was up by 19 and then Golden State caught fire and came back. The NBA's all a game of runs, man.
Yeah.
But like you can't make a run with Jimmy Butler not out there playing. Like you can't make a run with the injuries happening. And honestly, they all do look tired. Like it's a energy level part that we have.
Yeah.
And I know some of the former players, I love hearing the former players be like, they just don't play with the same intensity. Well, I mean, I guess not. Maybe they're just not in shape like y'all used to be, or maybe it's just more of a cardio league now, so they tire out quicker. But that is the truth. They did used to be more intense, and I'm talking about like in 2012, they used to be more intense. Like, so I don't know what's going on now. Maybe it's a little AAU version of it. Maybe people just don't play as hard, or when they get down, they're just like, all right, we'll live to fight another day, and they just give up a little earlier. But something's got to be done about it. And I'm telling you, like I said, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Adam Silver's been a weak commissioner, man.
Yep.
He's got to do something about it because David Stern wouldn't let this happen. Roger Goodell would not let this happen.
Yep.
They got to step up and do something about this because the product's looking bad. Even if the ratings are good right now, the product's looking bad. Something's got to happen.
You're spot on, and I'll end it on this right here. And I know everyone's, Kayvon, bringing it back to LeBron here. It's not just LeBron here, okay? Listen, this is what you have to appreciate. When we had LeBron making that 9 straight finals, for Golden State making 4 straight, those were intense series all along the way in the finals. And the reason it is because LeBron understands and has his team understand, for the most part, how to take care of your body when you go on a run like that. Like, some of these players like AD just can't do it, but he had it. And that team, LeBron was physically ready in shape to make those runs. Golden State understands how to make these runs, and that's why I think we're seeing great basketball out of Golden State. We would see great basketball out of LeBron all the way up until the finals. It almost feels like these teams that are in it now don't know how to contribute this far, which makes me think they just can't play this many games, which makes me think you just have to cut the games. Like that, that's just where it feels like it's going. Unfortunately, I don't know if it ever happens because that cuts a ton of money out of these owners' pocket, but that's what I hope happens.
If anything, aren't they doing 2 expansion teams soon? Like, if anything, they'd add more games. Like,
that's honestly,
which
would be a terrible idea.
Yeah, the mid-season tournament, 2 expansion teams. Just do that. Like,
that's the worst thing that could happen. But you're right. That's what honestly, that feels more realistic than what we're saying, which really should be the opposite way. So let's just hope for a great NBA Finals, which, whether they're good or not, we will break them down here on the Money Down Pod. So wait for that. We'll see what happens tonight, and we'll see what happens tomorrow in Boston. That is Sean White at Dumpster Fire Fan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Let us know your thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far. If you want to talk about the NHL playoffs, let us know your thoughts on it as well. And we will roll with that. Again, stay tuned. A lot of really good content coming out from us as we get closer to fantasy football, college football. We're going to have it all. We are really going to get into some fantasy football. So for you fantasy nerds out there, stay with us here. Me and Sean have been playing fantasy for many, many years. We've won a lot of leagues, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. So stay tuned for that, and we will talk to you soon.